Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 11 of our multiplayer chat series. In this episode, we're going to update our private conversation widget so it can be positioned and dragged across the screen using the mouse. We will also implement the private chat message command that you can type in the chat box, like /PM, username, and then my private message here. And that chat command will support us later down the road in our next episodes when we implement the back-end architecture for the private chat message system. Let's get started. I'd like to change the author ID identifier and the schat message for my tutorial purposes. I'm going to make it a type of string, and I will call it author username. For my tutorial purposes, this is going to be a username that the user would probably log in to the game with. In your game, it could be a Steam identifier, it could be some other identifier that uniquely identifies the user. We will be using that username in the chat box. When they type in the /PM command, they would have to specify a username and then the private message. So it has to be something unique across all the players in your game, across all the worlds and the maps that can identify a user. So let's go ahead and open up the widget blueprint for the private conversation. And in here, we need to override some additional mouse functions. So go up here to the override dropdown and let's override on mouse button down. And in here, we will create a new class variable called move window with title bar only. It's a boolean. We'll make it a private. And this will just make it easier down the road to configure how the drag of the private conversation window works. So for now, I will set this to true. This boolean value, I'll set that to true. And let's drag this here and get it. And then let's add a branch. And so what we need to do is, if we have it configured so they can only move the conversation window by clicking on the title bar of the window versus clicking on any part of the window, we need to have a separate branch for that. So over here in the designer, let's go over here. Let's select our title bar border that we created in a previous episode, and let's check is variable. And let's select this outer border, and let's set that to is variable. And we can actually call this window border. We will be using these two variables during this episode. And then so if the window can only be moved by the title bar, then what we need to do is we need to create a branch. Let's get this out of the way. And we need to grab our title bar right here, get it, and we need to call is hovered to see if the mouse is hovered over it. So on mouse button held down, when the user clicks and holds the mouse button down on the private conversation window, if the mouse is not hovered over the title bar, then they did not click the mouse on the title bar. So if the title bar is not hovered, and at this point we require the move window with title bar only, then we just need to return an unhandled event. Otherwise, let's go ahead and click on drag off this false, and we will add a reroute node and add another reroute node here. And we need to create one additional class variable called window drag activated. And let's make it private and compile it, and let's drag the window drag activated and set that to true. Connect the execution pin up right to the true branch here, and this reroute node, plug it in right there. Okay, so if we require the title bar to be hovered over on mouse button down, and if it is hovered over, we set the window drag activated to true. Otherwise, we don't handle this event. Or if we don't require the title bar to be the only draggable operation, then we come down here and we set window activated to true because they clicked the mouse button somewhere in our window, not necessarily the title bar. And what we need to do now is drag off this and call detect drag if pressed. And really quick, let's just delete that return node. And for this drag key, look for left mouse button. And for the pointer event, we get that from this mouse event right here. Okay, those are fine. Okay, so now what we need to do is after the detect drag, we need to drag off the mouse event again, and we need to call get screen space position right here, and we need to drag off the 2D structure, and we need to call absolute to local. Okay, and now this needs a geometry, which we conveniently get from this input event. Let's get these out of the way. Okay. And now what we need to do is we need to have another class variable called mouse drag start location, and it needs to be of type vector 2D. We can make it private, and we need to drag that here and set it to the absolute to local return value and connect up the execution wire. So when you click and drag a window in this viewport, we keep track of where the mouse drag location started, and I can explain that later when I'm demoing the drag functionality. So now what we need to do is we need to grab the window border, which is that entire border that contains the whole window, and we need to call slot as canvas slot. And then we need to drag off the return value, and we need to call get position. And then we need to drag off this return value, right click and promote to variable, and we call this one window drag start location. And let's make that private as well and connect up the execution wire. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to drag this return value, and we need to use it. Let's add a reroute, and then we need to call capture mouse, and let's go ahead and add a return node and return the capture mouse event reply. Okay, so that's our mouse down. So we need to add another override for on mouse button up. And in here, we're just, what we need to do is when the mouse button is released, we need to set the window drag activated to false. We need to, let's connect this up. We need to drag our mouse event here. We need to call detect drag if pressed, and then look for left mouse button. And then what we need to do is we need to, for good measure, we will set the mouse drag start location and the window drag start location to a default value of 0, 0. Okay, and then let's go ahead and drag off the detect drag if pressed, and we need to call release mouse capture. and plug in the event reply like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and compile and save. And we need to add an additional override for on mouse move. And in here is where we actually do the where we figure out the position of the window as the mouse is moving. So let's drag off the mouse event and call get screen space. And in here, we need to, after the return value, we need to call absolute to local. And let's plug in this geometry. And we need to set the we actually need to promote the return value to a local variable, and we'll call this current mouse location. And we need to set that, connect that up. And then we need to have a branch in here. So if the window drag is activated, actually we should be able to put this at the beginning. So if the window drag is activated, then we can do all of this computation logic. And we need to drag off this and call detect drag if pressed. And we need to look for a left mouse button. For the pointer event, we can get that from right here. Okay, and let's not forget to connect this geometry. It broke the link after I copied and pasted those nodes. And let's see, the input, that wire was broken as well when I moved those. Okay, so if the left mouse button is pressed, what we need to do is we need to grab our window border, get it, and we need to call slot as canvas slot, and we need to call set position, and this will set the position of the entire widget. Let's move this down. And what we need to do is now we need to calculate where did the mouse drag start and how far did it move and in which direction. So the way we do that is we need to get the current mouse location, get it, we need to subtract it, minus vector 2D minus vector 2D, and we need to subtract it from the mouse drag start location, and this gives us the difference from where the mouse started to where it is now. So, and then we need to take that difference and we need to add it. Let's swap nodes here. Then we need to add it to the window drag start location and get it. And then we need to take the result of that and plug it into the position right there. And then we can move this down a little bit. Let's drag off the detect drag if pressed return value, add a reroute, and move that up, and then we will call we will call capture mouse. And let's bring this return node over here, just like that, and plug it in like that. And on this false branch, let's not forget to do this, add a return node. And for the event reply, we will send back a handled event. Compile and save, no warnings. Okay, now let's test this. I believe this should work. Oh, okay, I've got a compile error. Let's go to the player controller, figure out why. For some reason those got disconnected. Now let's try to play. Okay. So now I can't click and drag on the window anywhere, but I should be, and there we go. I can click and drag by the title bar. And if I go back here really quick and I set the move window with title bar only to false, I should be able to click and drag anywhere from within, and it follows the mouse. However, I won't be able to click and drag if I click on the text field, because that text field, it basically overrides our mouse events. Alright, let's go ahead and I'll leave it to drag from anywhere within the window. Okay, quick time check, 15 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and open up our chat box. And in here, sorry about that. And in here, what we need to do, we're going to make some quick adjustments. So let's go to the designer, select our scroll box here and set it as a variable. Let's grab the scroll box, get it at the end of the set channel messages event, and we'll call scroll to end. So we'll do the same thing that we're doing with the private messages, and when we receive a new message in the channels, we'll just scroll it to the end of the list of messages. So let's go ahead and test this. You see how it scrolled down automatically. Before it wasn't doing that, it was staying up here at the top. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add one more quick thing. On preview key down, and what we're going to do in here is the same thing that we do with the private conversations. When the user presses enter, we'll go ahead and send the message for them. However, before we do that, let's go to the event graph. Let's break this. Let's create a new custom event called send. What am I doing? Call it send message. Let's connect this up here. And let's drag off this, and we will call that new send message event. Okay. Alright, so in here, what we need to do is we need to grab the end key event, and we need to call get key. And we need to look at the return value and do an equal check and look for enter. So if the user pressed the enter key, we need to intercept that event. So let's go ahead and add a branch. So we need to grab the text message to send and get it, and we need to call has keyboard focus. So if the user pressed the enter key and the text message box has keyboard focus, then let's intercept that enter key press event. And what we're going to do is, if that condition is true, if they're in the text message box and they press enter, we need to call send message, that new event we just created, and then we need to call a return node, and for the return value will be a handled event. Otherwise, we just need to return an unhandled event. Like that. Let's delete that, compile and save. Let's go ahead and test this really quick. I won't click on the send button, instead I'll just press enter, and there we go. Alright, and I opened up a bunch of windows without meaning to. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the private message sending, the private message command. So what we need to do, let's open up the message has command signature, and we will change the name of the channel command input to just command, and we'll rename this one to command found. because it's no longer going to be a function used specifically for the channel messages. It'll be used for the private ones as well. Alright, let's let me refer to my notes really quick. So in here, what we need to do is let's go ahead and delete this parse message, and let's add a new function called isMessageValid. We'll make it private and peer, and it'll take an input of type, the name will be message, and the type will be text right here, and its output, one and only, will be a boolean, and we'll just call this isValid. So what this does, it's pretty simple. It'll just take the text, it'll trim preceding and trailing white space, it'll call isEmpty, text is empty, and it will invert that. So if the text is not empty, then it's valid. Let's compile that. Let's close that, and we can close this. Let's go ahead and find our isMessageValid. We'll assign that to the message parsing category. We'll drag that here. We can get rid of this and this and this, and connect up the wires just like that. Okay, so now it's a lot more simpler. Not a whole lot going on there now. Okay, so what we need to do, let's break this connection. Well, let's go ahead and take all of this. We'll move it up here. Press C to add a comment, and for this comment we'll call send channel message, and we can delete these other comment categories as well, and we'll get back to this in just a moment. Let's delete this. Okay, so what we need to do, actually let's come back up here, we do need some events now. Add custom event, and for this we'll call this send channel message, and it will take a input of type text, and we will call it channel message. And let's connect, actually we need to come over here, and this parse message, press F2 and rename this to parse channel message, and let's click and drag this, connect up the channel message to the message input, and then let's give us some more room. Okay, so we need to drag this channel and connect it right there to the dispatch event, and then we need to call, for now we can actually hide this author username property, and then we need to connect up the channel message wire to the message that's in the message structure, and then we need to drag off this channel message, and we need to call isMessageValid, which is the new peer function we created, and let's connect that up. So if the message is valid, for now it's valid is just not empty, then we can execute all of this logic. Okay, let's go ahead and move this up and out of the way for now, and let's create another one, custom event, and we will call this send private message, and its input will be similar, it'll be of type text, and we'll call this private message. Okay, so we need to create a new function in here called parse private message. Let's go ahead and make it private and appear, and it will have one input called message of type text, and it will have two outputs. The first will be of type string, and we will call this target username, or we can call it, yeah, target username is fine. And then the second will be of type text, and this will be called private message. Let's go ahead and compile and save, and we will come back to this function later and fill it in. Let's assign that to the message parsing category, and let's click and drag and connect up the private message and the message wires. And then we need to drag off the private message and call is message valid, add a branch, connect that up like that. And then let's go ahead and grab this make schat message, and we can grab clear entered message, paste it down here. Let's connect up the message, and let's go ahead and add a new event dispatcher called on send private message. It will have two inputs, the first of type string, and its name will be target username, and its second input will be of type text, and it will be called message. I'm sorry, that should be schat message type. And let's go ahead and click and drag and call the onSend private message dispatch event and connect up the wires here and clear the entered message. Okay, I'll clean this up later. So this will be for send private message. Okay, now down here in the send message event, what we need to do is check to see if the message is a private message. And to do that, we're going to call message has command. For the message, we will drag the message that's right here in there, and it'll create this converter for us. And the command we're looking for will be /pm, and we need to add a branch. If the command is found, then we know that it's a private message that is being sent. If it is not a private message, what we're going to do is we'll call send channel message, and we'll drag off this value right here, connect it there, and assume it's a regular channel message. Okay, so let's check this / okay, let's go ahead and call send private message, and we need to drag up this message out, connect it right in there. Make sure you don't drag from the actual return value of the multi-line text box, because this message has command, it parsed out the /pm command for us. So in this event, what it has to do next is it just has to parse out the username. Let's do if it's a PM message. Okay, so that's good for now. Let's go ahead and fill in the parse private message function. I'm running out of time. And this will be rather simple. All we have to do is parse out a username, and the way I'm going to do it is the first white space of the message will be the end of the username. So what we're going to do is we'll drag off the message and call trim preceding and trailing. We will drag off this and call split. Actually, we have to call toString. And then we have to drag off the string and call split. And that'll be the source. The end string, I will add one space character. From the start, ignore the case. And the left string will be the username, and the right string will be the private message. And I'm actually going to drag off this text and call trim preceding and trailing, and then I'll return that. Okay, let's compile and save. And I think that is it. Let me look at my notes really quick. And one additional thing we need to do, let's go ahead and do this now. In the chat box, on send message, rename this to on send channel message, compile and save. Go to our player controller, compile that, make sure everything updated correctly. On send channel message. Okay, let's go ahead and we need to move this stuff down because we need to add a new, we need to bind to private, we need to bind to on send private message. Let's just go ahead and drag off this event, add event, custom event, and we'll select that, Control X to cut it. Come over here to our chat event graph, and let's paste this here, and then go back to our event graph, open up event dispatchers, create event, and select our custom event. Just a quick and easy way to do that. And then we'll call this on chat send private message. And just like this over here for the channels, we need to create a new custom event and call this send chat private message to server. It will run on server. And let's go ahead and call send chat private message to server. And I forgot to add the parameters. Let's do that now. The first will be of type string, and we'll call this target username. And the second will be of type chat message structure, and that will be called message. And connect those up. And what we will do is, let's go ahead and just do a print string for now. Let's drag off this and call append, and we'll add 3 pins. We'll just have the username, and right click the message and split, and then we'll have the message, and then we'll just have a semicolon in the middle. And the print string, we'll just have it display for 10 seconds. Let's do one additional thing, and let's rename on chat send message to on chat send channel message. And same thing here, send chat channel message to server, compile, save. Let's go ahead and test this really quick. So if I send this, okay, everything still works for the regular channels. Let's go ahead and move this out of the way. And now if I type in /pm username my test message, we can see the server said, oh, it disappeared. Let's go ahead and do pm username my test message. Username colon my test message. So that shows that our private message is being parsed correctly in the chat box. So in our next episode, we will be able to start using that in the server side, and then we can actually implement the logic that will allow you to chat with other players based on their username. So I believe that's it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and please like and subscribe and share. It helps me out a lot. And if you have any other questions, or if you want me to try any other tutorial, just let me know and I'll work on it. So again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.